being shredded. Every new gym goer's dream to be shredded, to have a low body fat percentage, have that six pack and those bicep and forearm veins popping through no matter where you are. But a lot of the time people don't realize the risk that the risks to their health, to the overall health that it has, being, such a low body fat. So what I mean by shredded is, I mean like single digit, like not 10%, like lower, way lower, low single digit body fat, around the, 6%, 7% range, where they're getting to that, not stage show, just before stage show ready type of body fat percentage. And it usually happens when people start going to the gym. They want to immediately shred off all their body fat and get into this, unbelievably unrealistic physique for longevity that people always want to get themselves into. So a lot of reasons why, people are always wanting to be shredded when they first start going to the gym is, for one, it's just more aesthetically pleasing. Like being able to look at yourself in the mirror and see, like, you have six-pack abs, you have the most defined shoulders, your biceps and triceps. You can see the vascularity and like the muscle fibers popping through whenever you get a pump. It is a great feeling, and I was once in that phase as well, where I just wanted to stay shredded for like the rest of my life just because I liked how it looked. It gets more people's attention when everyone wants to have that feeling when they're strutting down the beach and they got their shirt off and their six-pack is just popping through and everyone's staring at them, and they love the feeling of, knowing they're the most aesthetic looking bloke on the beach. But it really does like fuck you up. It's less mentally fatiguing to look in the mirror when you're shredded compared to, being 15% or higher of a body fat. People mentally, like mental-wise, they think that's going to make them a lot happier to be shredded and to, achieve this goal of being this specific body fat, to look a certain way, and it'll impact the way that they, treat themselves more than they treat others, have self-respect at being such a low body fat. People are also afraid to gain weight, especially people who were, fat or chubby in their childhood. They're scared to put back on, scared to go on like a slight calorie surplus to try and put on more muscle, and they're afraid of gaining that little bit of body fat that comes along with that. This occurs a lot through young women who, are just trying to lose body fat, but they think losing weight is the right way. And instead of, going in a calorie deficit with a high protein goal, they end up starving themselves and, eating an apple and 6 coffees a day. And this comes from, not even too long ago, the pressures of, models and how they were perceived by people in the magazines. And so young women were trying to aspire to look like that, and in doing so, they'd starve themselves. A lot of the time, people want to stay shredded because of how they look, and I was at the exact same point. At about year 9, only 15 years old, and I only just started going to the gym. I was getting newbie gains. I was gaining muscle super quick, and it was in the summer, and without realizing, I was just not feeding myself properly. Just to run you through a day that would look like it, I would get up somewhat early in the morning, like 7 or 8, go for a fasted run for about 20 minutes. I'd run about 3, maybe 4K. Then I would go home and eat, a little bit of Wheat Bix with banana and honey. Then I would eat maybe a protein yogurt, and I'd go to BSC and I'd play basketball with my mates for about 2 or 3 hours, and then go swim, burning a ridiculous amount of calories that I didn't realize I was burning that much. Then I'd go home and have dinner. So I'd basically skip lunch, and if I was lucky, get home before dinner and have a little small snack before dinner. But yeah, I was maybe eating like 1,400 calories, which is like an extreme calorie deficit. Like a lot of the time, bodybuilders don't usually eat that little when they're on prep, like in the last few weeks before their shows. And I was just doing that because I was thinking, geez, I look fucking good in the mirror right now. I'm going to keep this up. And I did that for the whole summer. And I'll talk about this later in this episode, but so many negatives came along with that. But yeah, back to like the female pressures from, not even being shredded, just trying to be lighter. It occurs so much through pressures of other people, and a lot of the time it's because of themselves. They get into their own head about, oh, people think I need to look this way and I have to lose so much weight to, impress other people and look this good. When in reality, no one actually really gives a shit how light you are. Most of the time, they actually don't really even notice. Like, you could drop or gain a couple kilos, and even if you ask someone, oh, do I look different? They'd be like, no, you look the exact same, mate. Same as yesterday. So it really doesn't make that much sense to stress about those little things and keep it going on in your head. So how do people get shredded? This is just a disclaimer. This is not me trying to give a tutorial like, oh, this is how you get shredded. And it's just to give context on what these people are doing. But also, I'm not here to preach to people that being shredded is like the worst thing for you and you should never do it. It's more to just give disclaimers on how this can impact your health if you don't do it properly. And a lot of the time, people can, it stuffs up their health. But I'm not trying to sit here and say, oh, don't go single digit body fat, you'll ruin your health completely. A lot of the time, people go single digit body fat just for summer, and that's completely fine. I've done it before as well. But it does come with a fair bit of health risk if you do it long term. So what do? Basically, to keep it simple, all they do is eat less calories than they burn per day. So if I burn 2,500 calories per day without working out, I will maybe eat 2,300, or if I want to go on an extreme calorie deficit, I'll eat about 2,000 calories. So I'll put myself in a 500 calorie deficit. People who, know what they're doing in a calorie deficit, they will also eat a super high protein diet. A lot of the time when beginners get into a calorie deficit to burn off that starting body fat when they first get into the gym, they won't aim for a protein target and they'll just aim on calories in, calories out. But as you start to progress to the gym and start to gain knowledge about your nutrition, you'll realize that protein is such a big, important macronutrient that you need in your diet every day, and has a wide amount of benefits, extremely, especially for weight loss. It increases your metabolic rate. So at rest, it will increase how many calories you're burning just by sitting there and doing nothing, because I'm not sure what it's called, but the rate of calories that it takes to digest a certain macronutrient, protein is the highest out of all of them. And they're also doing cardio. So if you watch like a Jay Cutler or Ronnie Coleman or just some bodybuilder getting ready for prep, they will most likely be doing some sort of added cardio to their everyday exercise. So, some bodybuilders, they'll just do cardio on top of like their normal exercises, even like their bodybuilding, like trying to gain weight phase. And then in their cutting phase, they'll keep that training regime, but then add on like a 20-minute treadmill walk session just to burn those extra amount of calories. So what happens when you're in a constant calorie deficit over time? Basically, your metabolic rate, it will decrease somewhat drastically because you eat in a calorie deficit, so you lower how much energy you have per day. Your body will get used to that, and it will slowly start decreasing how much it burns at rest. This is the same for when you increase your calories. So your body begins to identify that there's so much spare energy left to use. So it begins to increase how many calories it's burning when you're just sitting there. This is not to say that, if you don't do any exercise, that just by eating more, you'll burn more calories. This has to be alongside in conjunction with having an adequate amount of exercise in per week. So I'd say like 4 to 5 times per week, or maybe even 3 times per week, being physically active. That's not just the gym. Being in a calorie surplus, your body will eventually learn to burn more calories at a metabolic rate. It's obvious when you're in a calorie deficit, you're eventually going to be in a nutrient deficit. That can be with your carbs, your proteins, or even your fats. But we'll get onto fats later in this episode. But yeah, eventually you can, when you get into a low enough calorie deficit, you start eating less carbs than you're meant to per day, which means you'll most likely have a little bit less energy if in your diet you're prioritizing carbs as your main fuel source. You'll also decrease protein once you get to such a low point. If not, you're mainly just only eating protein. You're going onto a ketosis type of diet, so you're mainly using fat as your energy. But that's when you get to the extreme lows, like below 1300. So it's important to be at an appropriate calorie deficit and, prioritize your protein. Our immune system also lowers. So throughout a calorie deficit, you're more likely to get sick once you're in a calorie deficit for too long. This is because your body isn't getting all the nutrients it needs. So let's say I'm eating 2,400 calories per day at maintenance, and my body's used to getting all the proteins, the carbs, the fats, as well as like the micronutrients, like the vitamin D, especially at this time of year, when it's sunny every day. It's used to getting a lot of vitamin D, a lot of zinc, a lot of magnesium, and all like the other supplements that I take during my diet. Let's say in winter, I eventually cut my calories and there's not much sun. I'm nutrient deficient. I'm not getting my micro or macronutrients in except for protein. My immune system eventually just completely lowers, and that's when a lot of people eventually get sick in winter because of the cold weather. It changes. The immune system has to combat against the cold weather. So being in a long calorie deficit, you're a lot more likely to get sick. In the extreme cases, women will actually tend to lose their menstrual cycle. So once they get to such a low body fat percentage, because fats are like so important for their immune system and their hormone development, women in prep, like bodybuilding prep, they all lose their menstrual cycles once they're on stage because they have no fat to preserve for their hormone development. So they literally lose their periods for the time that they're at a specific body fat percentage that is so low, which is extremely dangerous for them. It will decrease your recovery. So being shredded and being in a calorie deficit for such a long period of time, bloody hell, it decreases your recovery because your body needs certain macro and micronutrients. And I know I'm saying it a lot and it's getting really annoying, but your body needs it, and it needs excess calories to use for recovery, to repair your muscles and restore your glycogen stores and all that stuff. When you're in a calorie deficit for so long, because you've got less energy than you used to, you begin to lose social drive. You don't really want to go out that often. You don't really want to see your mates too much. Your overall mood just drops. Like a lot of the time when people are in prep, they get so lonely because they've got no energy and they're in such a strict diet they can't go out with their mates. And additionally, you become a social burden that way. Like you can't go out with your mates for a couple of beers at the pub. You can't go out for dinner because, the calories are too high on the menu and you don't want to, eat the excess oils and you're stressing about it too much. So you begin to become a social burden to your mates, and eventually they just think, oh, he's not going to come out. He's too busy focusing on his diet. He doesn't want to, have a drink with us or whatever. And it begins to ruin, your social life. Once you get into such a low body fat percentage, you try to keep it for a longer period of time. You begin to, not ghost, but fade away from your friendship groups because you're so focused on one specific goal. A lot of the time when people in such low calorie deficits and trying to be shredded, the first macronutrient that they take away immediately is fats. And they lower that because the amount of calories per gram in the macronutrients, fats is the highest. I think it's carbs and protein are both 4 calories and fats are 9. That's per gram. So even though they take it out of their diet because it's so high in energy, it's actually one of the most important macronutrients when it comes to developing and managing your hormones. It helps with your cholesterol, which your cholesterol is like the precursor for all of your steroid hormones. So like one of them for men is testosterone. So by lowering your fats, especially at a young age, is so dangerous because cholesterol is so important for your testosterone development, especially at a young age. By lowering that, you lower your chances of, going through puberty properly, probably developing your male hormones, such as like growing your beard and like being able to like physically grow and get bigger. The reason why guys, they actually can't get boners when they're on stage in such a low body fat percentage, as well as while girls can't get their periods at such a low body fat, is because they have zero cholesterol. And cholesterol, as I said before, is what produces your sex hormones and your hormone development, which is for males and females. Females is estrogens, and for male is your testosterone. This affects your ability to, be intimate. So guys actually can't, have sex. They can't get with a girl. They literally can't get a boner when they're at such a low body fat. And this is talking about, extremely low. So, sub 6% body fat, which, when being shredded, that's what you aspire to be. You aspire to be that super low body fat percentage that catches people's eyes and, makes them want to ask, like, oh, what are you doing? What do you do to get such low body fat percentage? But yeah, this can affect, your ability to produce sperm. So your sperm production will lower straight away. And same with females, their egg production will lower when getting to such a low body fat percentage. A lot of people don't know this, but our brain is made up of 60% fat. And your brain feeds off the fats that you get from your diet to be able to function properly, make logical decisions, decision making, being able to store information. It requires fats and proteins just as much to be able to function. But in terms of development, but it also uses carbohydrates as their main energy. I guess to keep powering itself in a way. So a tip is 15% of your calories. Let's just say my daily calories as an average person would be 2,000 calories. You just need 15% of that of your daily intake to be devoted to fats. This is the bare minimum of what you need for your brain to function properly. But I would say anywhere between 15 to 25 or 30% should be devoted to your fat intake. It's really important to keep it in your diet, and it's very easy to skip out on. You'd rather go for the the almond milk or the light milk rather than the full cream, just because it's got more fats in it, but it's doing you more good than harm. It might have more calories, but its macronutrient and nutrient density far outweighs the amount of calories that it has. So, yeah, in conclusion, I don't think being shredded is a bad thing. I've personally done it before, but I know for a fact with my experience, it's not a thing that you can handle long term. It's good to look at. It might mentally benefit you for a short period of time, but getting to that goal, once you get there, there's only so far you can go without, physically harming yourself. And what I mean by that is once you get to about like 5% body fat, which is ridiculously low, like veins popping out your thighs and like you have it popping out your shoulders and everything. Once you get, to 5% body fat, you can't really go too much lower without damaging your health. Like a bunch of bodybuilders, and I always mention bodybuilders, it's so annoying, but it's the easiest example of people who consistently get into nutrient and calorie deficits for the pleasure of people's eyes. And they get extremely depressed in these journeys. One of the there has been a bodybuilder who's died on stage or died from suicide because of the pressures. I'm not too sure who it is off the top of my head, but it will be right up here for you guys to read and find out who that is. But yeah, it's a really scary process, and it doesn't just affect you physically, it can affect you in so many different dimensions. As I said, socially, you don't want to go out, you don't want to have a beer with your mate because, it's got 120 calories per thing or whatever it is. But honestly, the calories, my brother gave me this for a Christmas card. It said, don't count the calories, count the memories. And he gave that to me and I started taking the piss out of him, like, shut up, mate, like, why are you giving me so much shit for counting my calories? But he's actually right, and didn't credit him. Still worried because he'll get in my face for it. But I completely agree with it now. Like, after realizing that being in such a low calorie deficit is just a burden to myself and to others, I stopped it. I stopped being in a calorie deficit, trying to be in a calorie deficit all year round, realizing how bad it is for my health. Not realizing how, annoying it was for other people that I wouldn't be able to hang out because, I just wouldn't eat food when we were out. Like, I would just eat my own food and then go hang out with them. Like, if it was going out for dinner, I'd just sit there having, a water or a Coke Zero. And I was just being a burden to the group. But now I know, eating that little bit of food doesn't wreck your progress that you made for weeks and months. Like, one day, you don't get fit in one day, so you're not going to lose your fitness in one day. Like, you're not going to get fat from one night where you pig out and eat, 3,000 calories over. Just like if you're in a 3,000 calorie deficit the day before, you're not going to be, completely shredded the next day. And it's just understanding those different mental challenges and mental battles that I had to go through. Just experiencing that. It's stuff that, you have to fuck around and find out. And I want to share my experiences that I had with, trying to be like that and, give you guys, support if you're doing the same thing to, like, rethink it a little bit. And not to say that, I'm going to give people shit or immediately try and convince them to, stop being in a calorie deficit, because sometimes it is necessary. Sometimes people are fat and they are actually, walking around with too much adipose tissue, and they're getting to extreme calorie deficit to lose all that. That's, 100% understandable. But for people who don't really need it, maybe just rethink it a little bit. But yeah, that brings us to the end of the episode. Hope you guys all really enjoyed it. Again, I said it in the last episode, and I really want people to, start responding and shooting me messages. And trust me, I don't care who sends me messages. I'm really open to any interpretations, any opinions. Just let me know something that you're interested about and something that you want me to talk about. Shoot me a message on the Instagram or, just even in person saying like, oh, maybe you should try talking about this. And I'll 100% take it on board. I love learning about stuff that I don't know about and that people know more about that topic than me. I love learning, from people that know more about a certain topic than me. But yeah, I hope you guys all enjoyed this episode. Please do share the podcast or like any episode that you enjoyed. I want to try and spread this around as much as I can to people, just to share knowledge and share episodes that people might enjoy. But yeah, if you guys did enjoy this episode, please feel free to share it on Instagram, Snapchat, whatever episode you enjoy the most. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to share it. Comment in the response thing on Spotify as well if you have any ideas on future episodes that you want me to talk about. But yeah, I'll see you guys all in the next episode. Bye.